The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Good day, sisters and brothers. Welcome. This is Pastor Kelvin Sauls, connecting with y'all, hanging with y'all. This is Faith Without Borders. I'm doing to myself what my mom would have done to me. She's done this many times, making sure that I look right, I am right, and I got to do what I got to do. So good to be with you. Blessed Mother's Day to everyone, both near and far, in town, out of town, in country, out of country, around the world. What a joy it is to be with you today for just a special broadcast. I want to thank our team here at Morris Media Studios for making it happen for us, and all of the mothers that will be with me for just an awesome conversation. So much going on that involves motherhood, and so looking forward to that. As I mentioned, I do this in honor of my mother, Annie Sauls. There she is. She looks just like me. Hallelujah. And just appreciate her. She is my shero. She is my number one girl. And just love and appreciate her. She is now, of course, she has joined the ancestral cloud of witnesses and is with me, every day as I do what I do. Living into and up to her legacy. A woman of compassion, an organizer, a catalyst. She can make anything happen, including orchestrating her own birthdays and anniversary times. Oh yeah, she can organize a party through us and still call it a surprise party. You know what I'm saying? So today I feel her presence with me. Always the day before Mother's Day. I would call about 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is about 6 a.m. there. So I'm always the first one to call to say Happy Mother's Day. So I was her favorite son because I would call for about 30 years. I would call her first. She never did understand the time zone difference, so I never disclosed that to her. But I would always beat all of my other 6 siblings to call and say Mother's Day. And so everybody else that calls that was closer, to her, she would just say to them, I don't know why, you all are so late calling me because Kelvin is in America and he already called me. I mean, what's wrong with y'all? That's how you do it. But miss you much. And along the way, God has provided more mothers, and one of them will be on this morning. She is mother to many and grateful for her presence here with us. And so today we're going to be talking about the power of motherhood in movement building. And I will be joined by some mothers who continue to birth and bridge with the urgent task of building movements that organize and mobilize for racial, economic, and social equity. Yep, they're doing it, and appreciate them for that. Love them for that. So let me go ahead and bring them all in. First, I want to welcome friend Jamaat Rollins. She's the co-founder of the Jamaat Rollins Group and does a lot of movement building, organizational capacity, and is basically mother to many. And so she we kind of share her with her kids and her grandkids, and so we kind of try and see where we can get in, where we can fit in, right? And she just makes room for that, around that. And then Janet Kelly is also here, founder and executive director of Sanctuary of Hope. So glad that she could be here. And Pamela Sobo Anchang is here, founder and managing editor of the Immigrant Magazine. She's also a TV and radio host. That's my sister from Cameroon. Appreciate you being here. And some folk will come in and out. because of Wi-Fi challenges and also finishing up earlier engagements to join us, and so we'll pull them in as we move forward. But let me start off with the mother of all, or the mother of many, I should say, Fran Jamat Rollins. Are you there, Mother Fran?
Good morning, Pastor. It's so good to be with you.
I want to let you know, as always, Mother Fran texts me, a little early and say, "Where y'all at? I'm here and I'm ready to roll." That's how she does it, and
Oh,
I appreciate you for that. Happy Mother's Day.
thank you.
It is
Thank
so
you.
good to
I
see you.
enjoy
Look,
hearing about your mother all the time.
yes, yes, and I appreciate you picking up the mantle and making sure that I continue to stay on track, and I really appreciate that. You look beautiful, and
Thank you.
let's just start with that. I mean, tell me a little bit about your mother. How she has shaped you in being who you became, being who you are. I mean, we are certainly are the beneficiaries of what mom and dad has invested in you, but we know the role of the role mothers play. So maybe just a little bit, as you share about a little bit about you, just about mom.
Oh, I love that. And I think of my mother this day and every day, and I hear her and her wisdom constantly. My mother is an American, and I say that because my father was from the Caribbean. And so we are here today because of her tenacity and industriousness. And she was the most amazing person. Um, my mother was born in 1913 in Hereford County, North Carolina. And I mention that because Hereford County, North Carolina has made its way into the history books as thanks to John Hope Franklin. It is the free mixed race people of Hereford County, North Carolina,
Mm.
and their careful documentation to 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 really know and understand much more about my mother and her family's history. But at 18 years of age, her mother died, and my mother became the mother to her siblings, including a newborn baby, after experiencing the traumatic home birth and then immediately afterwards the death of her mother. And that is such a contemporary maternal child health that today is just still for Black women a major, major concern. And I am just beginning to appreciate all that I grew up with knowing and understanding about motherhood from my mother. Um, and and uh, and so sacrifice and thriftiness and always preparing a good meal, a meticulous home, open to all. Um, I appreciate you calling out that you and others are can make this my kitchen table, your kitchen table, almost any day of the week. And so all that comes from my mother. She could, I could whip up a meal for 20 people in a heartbeat, and um, and do it joyfully. There's so many things that I have learned from her, and while housekeeping and homemaking were central to what she wanted me to understand, my mother also worked the elections. My father
Mm-hmm.
was very civically active and engaged, and so for my father to plan a dinner for 250 people, he turned to my mother, who recruited the women in the community um, to transform our local volunteer fire department into a banquet hall and host all of the elected officials in the
Mm-hmm.
area. Um, I I look at pictures on my walls now of the events that they managed to pull off in the 50s with 300-400 people in a room without any any of the technology that we have today. And so I think that my mother just really, I don't think I was a willing subject. I didn't know, I didn't appreciate, didn't know that I wanted to know and would need any of that. But here I am.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That I mean, that hospitality. Of course, you do it in such a radical way, and I know Jada Pinkett Smith has the red table talk, but I'm glad I have access to Fran's kitchen table. Okay, and and just all the conversations that that we've had and continue to have over there. I want to bring in another beneficiary of just the hospitality of our friend Jamont Rollins, and that is my dear friend and sister Janet Kelly, who's here with us. Happy Mother's Day, and so glad that you're able to join us. How is you, my sister?
I am fine this morning. I'm a mother of four kids, two different generations. So I'm in my second generation, and they had me a little bit exhausted. But it's amazing to just wake up. It's amazing to wake up to them and seeing how Mother's Day has transformed over the past. I want to say many years. Just say many years.
Yeah, yeah. So look, I text all of them to make sure that you get breakfast in bed. They didn't get my text message? What? Maybe I should have
They didn't.
TikTok.
They didn't get that. They didn't get that one. They may have attempted, but I was so tired.
Okay, okay. I hope they're
Just
not
exhausted.
blocking me because that means I'm stepping up my whole game around this thing. You know what I'm saying? We do have a surprise for you though, and we're gonna play it. I'm gonna ask Laurent to cue that up for you in a minute. But Janet, I know as a woman from the valley, and I'll let you explain the valley. Okay, this is kind of
Mhm.
inside talk that we have. As a woman from the valley,
Mhm.
whose mom is still alive, and I know pray for everybody 24/7.
Yes. Yes. I got
What
an old
lessons?
school Kojic mama.
That's right. That's right. She pleads the blood. Okay, watch out now. And what lessons from mom has enabled you to be the mother that you are, not just to those four beautiful kids, but
Mhm.
also to all of the young people that you have brought into your heart, into Sanctuary of
Mhm.
Hope. You want to just say a little bit about that?
Yes, I would say one thing about my mom is that, she taught us to love everybody. I mean, just as, SOH creates a safe home here for young people in Los Angeles, in Stockton, California, in the Valley. Um, my mom's house, my parents' house have always been a safe place for young people to go. And even to this day, I could go to her house and see young people that I don't even know. They speak a whole different language, but she will tell you it's the language of love, and don't say anything when you come to her house. So that is what I don't do. Um, but I appreciate one thing I appreciate about my mom is her love, her compassion, her generosity, her hospitality. I often share with folks that, when I was growing up as a kid, and at the time, church was the really kind of biggest function, especially if you grew up a Kojic kid. There are times where I would wake up and there would be pallets on the floor with people, and not just two or three people. We're talking about maybe four, five, six, up to 10 people. And she would get up, make sure that, meals were prepared and share those meals, and just sharing meals in communion with folks just became something that I just got accustomed to myself. And I think that's why um, I approach things from a communal standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
because I understand how important community is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you display that, you embody it in so many ways. Again, I always credit you for evangelizing me into this movement around transition age youth. I was just want to say to all the pastors out there, you don't learn everything in seminary, okay? One, two, you won't experience, everything, in the sanctuary. You've got to, continue to be open beyond seminary and beyond sanctuary, and hit the streets, and you'll be amazed what you've learned. And my experience with Sanctuary of Hope, and my collaboration with Janet is one of those experiences, and I sure appreciate it, and so I conspired with a couple of folks that I happen to know that's on your staff, to put a little something together, so we're gonna roll it, and we want to say to you, thank you for the mother that you are to so many of our transition to age youth, and this is what goes down at Sanctuary of Hope, y'all.
How long will you target me? I mean, most of your friends have been banned, yet you still seek my note.
Okay, we're gonna get together. That's another video. Laurent's gonna pull the right one up here in a minute. We're gonna get that spoken word later on. All right, here we go.
I got conspirers. Oh, Lord. So Sanctuary of Hope provides housing, education, and basic needs services to transitional age youth between the ages of 16 and 25 who are homeless, foster care, probation, at promise, or very, very low income within South Los Angeles and the South Bay region. So we do a variety of things from providing housing services to life coaching, mentorship, leadership and character development, and just employment readiness, everything that it takes or requires to help a young person get on their feet, become stable, and live a life of resilience.
The opportunity to just support a small percentage of the millions of homeless youth in the United States alone has been personally transformational. We have several amazing programs and dozens of awesome staff members at Sanctuary of Hope, and I have been able to provide support and concern to many participants, and I have facilitated hundreds of counseling hours collaborating with participants on effective tools to reduce risk factors, address systemic challenges, here and now adversities, and childhood traumas.
I had been couch surfing since I was 16. By the time I was 18, I ended up on my sister's couch, and eventually she said, hey, this program can help you out a ton. They've helped me out. And she sent me the address and everything, and I went over, and the first person I ran into was actually my son. So through SOH, I was in 3 programs, I believe. When I initially joined Family Connect with my son, it didn't go well, unfortunately. Family Connect really wasn't the best program for me in regards to my mental health. But of course, I did communicate any built up thoughts. And the second program that I was in was between Bridge and Transitional Housing. Bridge meant a lot to me. And it was, sadly enough, the first time that I really had a bed. And if you ask any of the staff at Bridge, I think there were moments where I did sneak onto the floor and find comfort on the floor because I had been sleeping on the floor for so long. But the bed was like this mythical object for me. It was like, wow, a bed. And it was just the little things. The little things really meant a lot to me, you know.
I was in the shelter for a little while, and with Sanctuary of Hope, they make sure you work. They will push you. They will, they make sure you're filling out job applications every day. They make sure you have your ID, your license, you got transportation. They really make sure that you are on it. And that's exactly what I needed. You know, I needed that push.
As you know, life can be a puzzle for our young people. And because of that, it can cause so much pain, you know, for them. And as a result of that pain, insecurity, you know, just comes, you know, into their lives and become their companion. But we want to say to our young people that even though you're going through what you're going through is painful, right? We want to just let you know that you are beautiful. You've been created in God's image. God's got some plans for you.
If you or someone you know is 18 through 24 and experiencing housing insecurity, we want to connect to provide some assistance, so contact us today.
Happy Mother's Day, Janet Kelly.
You got me. That was it. That was good. That was really, really good.
Yes, yeah. You know, I got some hookups over there, and I still got the keys to the building. You know what I'm saying? So
I see.
But yeah, just wanted
and one
to.
of those gentlemen is going on our freedom ride, Mr. Nathaniel.
Oh, great! So I'm looking forward to seeing him, and so that's great. But look, you continue the mothering, and again, you have birthed Sanctuary of Hope. You continue to build it. And because of that, it is bridging so many young people, you know, to continue to be resilient, because at Sanctuary of Hope, they are real and relevant. And that's, you know, what that mothering, you know, is all about. This is the movement that you continue to mother, and we want to appreciate you, you know, for that. So we wanted to just give you a shout out with that little surprise. I hope nobody gets in trouble, but if they do, you know, we'll work it out. Okay, let me move on. I'm gonna head out to the continent here now, to West Africa, to Cameroon. My sister Pamela Anchang is here. She has 3 beautiful children. I happen to be a dear friend of her and her husband. And we work together on a variety of issues as it relates to African and Black immigrants. And she is a powerhouse. And she is involved in so many things. And whatever she touches, you know, excellence just emanates from that. And so I want to bring on, I've met her mom, and I've spent some time with her mom. And she is a reflection of her mom. Just in how she is and what she's doing. Now, Pamela, of course, born and raised in the Cameroon, now over here, we see that national peace, you know, going on. Second generations, you know, because of those 3 offspring that you have. Share with us a little bit, you know, as you know, as an African immigrant, as a mother. You know, I think mother is mother everywhere, right? Just your, you know, lessons from mother, and how have you been able to translate that, you know, in an American context as you've raised, you know, your children. Pamela, welcome, and blessed Mother's Day.
Thank you so much, Pastor Sauls. First of all, I want to wish Happy Mother's Day to these amazing mothers. I am so honored to be in your company, and especially just hearing what you do on a daily, being a mother, being mothers to so many, especially the destitute. So that really fuels me. My story as a mother, or my experience as a mother here in the United States, I think speaks for a lot of mothers, because just hearing the stories of your mothers sound like you're talking about my mother. And I was just getting teary-eyed, because I was just this morning sending a message to my mother and telling how amazing she has been. You know, the mother that, you know, when everyone doubts you, believes in you, you know, the mother that when you doubt yourself comes to lift you up, the mother that celebrates your little accomplishments, you know. And sometimes as when you're young, you don't understand some of the things that your mother will make you do. It's later on in life, you know, like I remember as a child, some friends came over and we had made this meal that I felt wasn't up to par. Like I didn't want to serve that meal. And my mother said, no, you go give them that food. And I was like, Mom, but there's not this in there. There isn't this and that. It's not up to standard. And she said, give them the food. And I gave them, my friends, this food, and they enjoyed it so much. That story always stayed with me. And she said to me, you never know when when that meal could be a lifesaver. So I learned that from my mom. And so here in the United States, my friends just literally call me Mama Pam, because every time they come to my house, there's always food. I always give food. I'm always feeding people, and that comes from my mom and so many other things, that believing in me. And so now I have my own children, 3 of them. And being a mother is hard. It is a hard job, even when you have a spouse, because sometimes you find yourself torn between the spouse and the children. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like sometimes you kind of like, you understand the children. Now you got to translate that to your husband to understand the children and what's going on. And sometimes everybody is on you. Whoosh. I don't know. I mean, being a mom is hard. My kids are 24 and a half, 21 and 16. So they are those ages, some of my older sons like, okay, now I'm going to be on my own. Next thing you know, he's back. I'm like, I thought you were done with college and now you're supposed to gotta start all over. I'm sure you can relate. And I'm sure there are lots of mothers out there that can relate. So now speaking from the context of being an immigrant, it's even harder because I'm having conversations with my children, especially my boys, growing up being Black in America. That is something that I'm dealing with. And I'm sure lots of Black immigrant mothers can relate to. Sometimes my kids don't know how to communicate with me, even just as Black kids here in the United States, born to immigrant parents. We have that conflict there. I have different sets of values. They have different sets of values. We got to find a way to make it work. I have to understand their new culture. They have to understand mine. And then they tell me, say, Mom, you don't understand what it means being Black. And my second son, I did an episode with him on the radio, simply because during the Black Lives Matter movement, my son said to me, Mom, I don't think that you Black immigrants understand what African Americans have gone through. So we have all these deep conversations. And so he tells me stories about what he's experienced. And as a mother, my heart, and I'm always just on edge. I'm always scared, because I look at my babies and they're my babies and I'm worried about what the world thinks about them because I don't come from that. Mm-hmm. See, I came from a culture where we deal more with tribalism, you're from this village, I'm from that village. We don't have race as a factor. I'm sure Pastor Sauls relates in a different way because he would relate more with an African American than I would. Being from South Africa, I relate, more on a cultural level, So I don't want to speak too much, but in essence, to answer your question, Pastor Sauls, it's a daunting task just being a mother. Not to mention, you have to add all the other layers. And I'm just learning every day. And it's quite a journey. But I'm grateful for it because, like I said, God doesn't give you something you can't handle. But I just want him to give me the grace and show me the way.
Yes. Indeed, a daunting task. I mean, I clap all claps up for my mom. I mean, to raise somebody like me, good God. And there were 7 of us. But it's very, very daunting, but she was determined, to make sure, growing up, in the context shaped by the ideology and the theology of apartheid, white supremacy, basically. The task was even, more daunting because of that. And you speak about that in terms of Black Lives, Matter. I want to bring in Fran again, because this bridges us into, just mothering at home and then mothering, civically, right? Mothering, by way of organizing. You've been doing that now for years, and I've always appreciated just the stories that you would tell, around that. how do you right now we are in a whole fight around Roe v. Wade that has to do with mothering, right, and the right of a woman to basically manage her own body, right, and we are in a patriarchal and sexist society around that. How do one navigate, this mothering, this womanhood piece, in the midst of having to facilitate, the change that's needed for equality and equity? Any thoughts that you have about that?
I have many thoughts about that. I, I first have to just acknowledge being on this program with these wonderful sisters and this collective experience of motherhood across the ages and across the continents, and just praise songs for the mothers here who give so much to so many. I went to see Blues for an Alabama Sky yesterday, the Felicia Rashad directed play, which really focuses on the issue of abortion in Black communities, and we have to remember that this play was written in probably the 1970s, and so the conditions, the conflicts still exist. In our community. But one thing that I think we can all relate to is the issue of rights, that human rights, civil rights, women's rights, voting rights, these are all rights that we have fought for and are now encoded in law. And what is astonishing is how easily our adversaries are able to take out our rights. And so whether you believe in abortion or not, whether you're pro-choice or not, you have to be pro-woman and
Think she may have frozen.
that. Oh, I see. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. If someone, Angela, Sister Angela said, if they come for you in the morning, they're coming for me in the night. So if they come for abortion rights, I say to my brothers and sisters, to our people of faith who may not agree with anything related to abortion, focus on rights. If they come for a woman's right in the morning, they're coming for your voting rights in the evening. They're coming for your civil rights in the night. They're coming for your right to housing, to employment. This is just the tip of a very deeply ingrained and sorrowful iceberg in the American psyche, that we do not practice equal rights for all people. And I love Janet, and I learned so much from her. And we know the young people growing up in the Black community who are gay, and and it's so easy for people to say, well, I don't believe in gay marriage, and so I'm going to support a candidate who is against gay marriage. What else is that candidate against? Who else is that candidate against? And when you vote for that candidate, what other rights do you put at risk? Not to mention how hard you make life for that gay transgender person. So I love this concept of we have to love all people. We have to love all people, and we have to make sure and fight for all people having rights. And I really appreciate you, calling me out as a mother of the movement, because, I don't feel all that old sometimes. I just, but I did sit at the feet of mothers of the movement.
Yes.
I lived the life of a young person at the knee of Shirley Chisholm and Dorothy Height and Patricia Roberts Harris, and so many people who fought for and created change that we are blessed to appreciate today. And I hope that some of what we do now and will live on into the future. I don't want this to be a moment. A movement continues to move. It can't be a moment where we move on to something else more important soon.
And I agree with you 100%. This cannot be a moment. And that's why I think for me, every opportunity that I get to turn every and any moment into movement building, is critical, because these are tumultuous and dangerous times. And we have to do that. Hence, on Mother's Day, we're talking about mothers of the movement. And I want to pull Janet in again here. I know, Janet, you shared with me a book that you just read called Mothers of the Movement, and
Mm-hmm.
we were gonna use that book, of course, for the upcoming, destinations encounter, around a west to south, experience for young people with the civil human rights, movements. And you are at Saints of Hope dealing with a lot of mothers. Uh, so so um, so you are a mother. You have been mothered by that beautiful Kojic mother, and now you are basically mothering mothers who are mothering their children. I mean, you talk about layers, right? And that's why, I mean, I call this movement building, right? In terms of that, Pamela mentioned the whole piece around, Black lives at risk in this country, and that's been, uh, um, since 1816, around, and it continues just in new and different ways right now, updated, upgraded
Right.
ways. Your thoughts around how do we, keep our hands to the plow around challenging and the ongoing schemes and systems that seek to take us out and undermine us in general as Black folk, but especially women. Just your thoughts about how do we keep our hands to the plow, as we do this multi-generational work.
And one of the ways that I think that we keep our hands to the plow is that we need to really hone in on organizing our young people, informing them about their rights, right? Understanding that what Roe versus Wade means now. I mean, a lot of them, if you talk to them, they just know that it protects them or provides them a right to abortion. But it does so much more than that. We're talking about reproductive health and choice and all of those that often fall in line with what does this country provide your right to do as a person? And what does the privilege does this country provide for you as a right to fulfill for yourself and your own destiny, especially when you're looking to author your destiny yourself? Meaning, what does it give you the agency to do? And when you think about that in the context of agency, right? Um, uh, Roe versus Wade gives or empowers a person with agency to make choice, especially sometimes hard choices. I could tell you, working with young people, especially young moms, we have the whole gamut of it all, especially those who have experienced trauma, who have either been raped or tortured by an abuser and then had to or became impregnated through that process. Even some, histories of incest, but also some basically based on how they are economically within their status. And I always approach this, and I think like most people do, I believe everyone is pro-life. Everyone, really uplifts the meaning of life and what it really means. We also know that at times choices matter, especially when it comes down to health. It's a health choice. If it comes down to an economic choice, all of those things. And we need to be able to protect those rights of individuals. And for young people, it's helping them understand how that all plays into civics and their civic responsibility and their civic duty to protect the rights of others and the ones that come behind them.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that is so important, to be able to hold it together, in a multi-generational, or to engage in multi-generational movement building, because, these schemes and systems, have been put in place to perpetuate themselves. Hence, there's all of this resistance to this third reconstruction, that's going on. I had the privilege 15 years ago to be the co-founder of the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, and basically, Pamela, part of that work, was to intentionally bridge, the immigrant rights movement that was emerging then with the unfinished agenda of the civil human rights movement in the United States, because our destinies are so inextricably tied, around that. And I want to commend you for listening, as a mother to, your son talking about, Black Lives Matter, and how, we have to navigate that in here. I talk about, back then, we talked about double consciousness. I always say, as a Black immigrant, I deal with quadruple consciousness because of all the bridging that I need to do, that you have to do, right? In terms of that. How do you, Pamela, see this next generation in terms of as they grow up, as they become, right? How do you think they are viewing what motherhood or parenting, need to be, especially in light of what's happening, right now, the Me Too movement, and then of course, solidarity right now around, fighting, this, this takeover of, the Supreme Court, and therefore putting at risk, the reproductive, rights of women, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, because of all of the other movements that's going on around voting rights, the banning of books, and all of that. Your thoughts about how do you see this next generation, looking at, what parenting, motherhood needs to be about, in these, during these dangerous and tumultuous times?
Well, that's a very layered question, and it's a very good one too, Pastor Sauls. I do have a 16-year-old daughter, and what I've experienced is our children, especially children of immigrants, and probably you all Americans, like natural-born Americans, you are so wise. That's one thing I can clearly state. Sometimes my children speak to me and I'm kind of like, was I that knowledgeable at that age? So I know for sure there is a consciousness that seems to be inbuilt in children that are born in a place of strife. Now, growing up in Cameroon, I had a different, which is one of the reasons why I left Cameroon, was because I had a consciousness of my environment not being able to provide for me, for my future. And so when I came over here as an immigrant, all I was thinking about is how to survive. And a lot of times that gets skewed because, for example, my African or my other Black community will not understand why I'm not paying attention to what's going on in the civil rights movement here in the United States. It's because as a Black immigrant, I am first of all an immigrant before even being Black. So I'm not even aware, I'm not conscious of the fact that my race is playing a part. So, because I'm thinking, oh, my immigration, or my legal status, or I need to find a place to stay, or how do I came to the land of dreams. Because when you're back home, you have these ideals of what America is going to provide you. And so you come and reality hits. Doesn't matter who you come to be with, you to stay with, you have to live somewhere. And so you're thinking about housing, you're thinking about your future. And so sometimes all the other things that make up your composition, living in the United States, you kind of set that aside, or you're not aware, you're not conscious. So there's a difference. And then later on, if you're fortunate, you catch up. And sometimes by the time you catch up, you have children. And then now you're trying to teach your children about you, and they're also trying to understand you and why you don't understand them. So your children of immigrants and Black immigrants especially, most of the time have to straddle the fence. Like when they're with me, they have this African culture. And then when they're out there in the world, they have to fend for themselves because they're aware that their parents are not aware and not informed and not educated enough about what it is. We were not taught about the civil rights movement in Africa, right? We're taught about our colonialism, our neo-colonialism, imperialism, and all of those things. And we come here and now we learn. We watch movies about Malcolm X. We hear about Martin Luther King. We hear about all these things, but until you experience it, you really don't know what that means. And so I come here and I'm trying to play catch up, trying to survive as an immigrant, and also trying to navigate what's going on around me. Why am I not getting the job? I wouldn't even notice if someone were racist to me when I just got here. Someone could say something racist and it would just not resonate with me because that is not my consciousness. But my children have that consciousness. And so sometimes when they come and tell me things, I'm kind of like, is it a question of discipline or is it a question of racism, when they're at school? And so you have to figure this out. And then the kids get frustrated, they don't know. So they learn to survive. And so what I've realized is that our children of Black immigrants are more informed, are more educated. They're educating us, the parents. And I have a feeling that they'll be all right and they'll handle parenting and motherhood much differently from how I have handled it. I sometimes feel like I failed in some ways because I wasn't aware. A teacher could call me, they could call me for a parent conference, and my son or my daughter would know that, Mom, this is based on racism because they didn't do this to so and so. But I'm coming there as this African mother, and why did you do this? And why were you rude to the teacher? And why were you da-da-da? And the kid is like, you don't even understand, Mom. And now they're grown and I'm having conversations and I'm finding myself apologizing because I didn't know. So it's such an emotional roller coaster for me and for most African immigrants, And so I think our children will handle parenting with the consciousness and the knowledge and empower. Because my daughter is 16. She's telling me about Mom, Roe v. Wade. I'm like, okay, can you explain? And she knows about it. And I'm like, wow, what do you think that means for you? We have conversations. And so I've learned not to ignore them because they are so intelligent. The children that were born here, it's a different layer. So I think they'll be just fine. But the fight must continue and the movement must continue. And we African immigrants, we must join.
That is correct. It's all hands on deck. We ain't got no time for spectators. Because white supremacy is on this thing full-time, 24/7, 365. And continuing to see how they can use the backs of women in general, but in particular Black women, to continue to forge ahead with what they seek to accomplish. You mentioned, the importance of, the civil rights, movement. I believe that we've been joined by Pastor Tamakila Smart. She is the co-founder and senior pastor of Christ Liberation Church and the director of the SCLC Women of Southern California. She just finished worship, so I know she is Holy Ghost filled, and the anointing is going to just bless us here in a few seconds. But let me say to you, Pastor T, as we call her, Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Happy
I
Mother's
know you're running from here and then everywhere, but I'm so glad that you're able to join us. Please share with us. I mean, you're talking about birthing movement and bridging and building, right?
hmm
That's you've been doing this, straight out of West Tennessee, where you
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
born and raised, right?
Yeah.
And so just share a little bit about that, and now it continues, of course, with the work of SCLC, but also what I really appreciate about what you are doing and all the women on here is just
hmm
the liberative spiritual aspect of this work of mothering, not just our children, but also mothering movements, as we, seek to stay on point, on purpose around the work that needs to be done, as we move forward. Just your thoughts, around um, mothering. I know we still are walking with you at the transition of your mother. And you look just like her, by the way. I just have to
Yes.
say that. um, let's honor her for a minute. Lessons you've learned from her, and how have you been able to translate that into, the ongoing work that you're doing right now?
Greetings. Thank you, Pastor Sauls. I appreciate you and appreciate you for this conversation, mothering the movement. I indeed am a product of my mother. I am her twin. And when I look at myself, I am joined by her. And I'm very thankful for that because I miss her. And today is a strong but emotional day. It's my first day being without my mother in the physical, but I can guarantee you this, that she is 1,000 times stronger in the spiritual. She has overtaken me with love and with the exploits of God, and just showing me on the journey in the spirit how powerful the spirit realm is and how needed it is and how important it is to remember our mothers, our grandmothers, and our families. My family is a historical educational family. I wasn't born in Tennessee, but my family established schools in Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Alabama, Virginia, New York, schools that were founded by my family members. My mother, in fact, was the last teacher in our family. The existing school in Tennessee. My mother taught there for 55, 56 years. And so I am very grateful for a family that is rooted in education. And so, what I would offer to mothers in the movement is the conversation that Jesus had with Mary and Martha. Very important conversation when we talk about mothering the movement. When Jesus visited Mary and Martha's home, Mary quickly sat at the feet of Jesus, and Martha had question about Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus and not moving, and just gleaning the information and pulling as much as she could possibly pull so that she could be about the exploits of Christ. And it concerned Martha. Martha said, "What is Mary doing?" And she really chastised Jesus and told him, "Make her do something. Make her get up and clean up. Make her, I can't focus." Basically, she was saying, because my sister is just sitting there. And she asked Jesus, she said, "Don't you care that I'm doing this work by myself? Tell her to help me." And Jesus in turn said, "Martha, Martha, you are worried about the wrong thing." And so I want to start with that really quickly and saying that it's very important when we're mothering the movement that we don't get caught up in the wrong thing. Coming from a very educationally centered family, my mother and my grandmothers were always very conscious about telling us to stay focused, both in education and both in community. Don't get caught up in the wrong thing or the wrong information or the wrong topic, or just focus on the exploit. That is what you have to do, what you have to be about. Exploit meaning the bold and courageous purpose of why you're here. Each of us having, as mothers, having a very incredible purpose, not just to the world, but to minister to our husbands, to minister to our families, to be present, and to not be worried about the wrong thing. Sometimes, especially in the age of social media, we can pick up on pieces of things and not center ourselves in what does this really mean. So I want to talk about, if I might, just mention this, and maybe we could continue it later. But I want to talk about Roe versus Wade, why this is being brought up now, and why it's essential that we not be worried about the wrong thing. One of the theme verses of our ministry, of course, Christ's liberation is based on Black liberation theology, giving thanks and pouring libations for James Cone, giving thanks for pouring libations for Gwendolyn, Patricia, Mary Coleman, my mother, and my grandmother. And so I want to move into focusing on the right thing. Roe versus Wade, why this is coming up now. This is coming up now from a prophetic view. This is coming up because America is at a demographic inflection point, okay? Posing challenges to both Democrats and Republicans. And so basically what you said, Pastor Sauls, posing challenges to the patriarchy. Why? Because there is a browning of America. There's a browning of America that is it's at great concern to the patriarchy. How will America look by 2002? They say that people of color will be the majority of the American working class by 2002. Not only that America's whites will become the minority by 2045. So why, from a prophetic view, do I think Roe versus Wade is being brought up in 2022? Don't kill any more white babies, or we're going to actually be in even more of a minority. So we're going to say, just for instance, if white women stop having abortions, there will be more white babies, of course. Black babies, hallelujah, will of course be being born, but black babies, hallelujah, we have always had black babies, and we're going to continue to have black babies, and that is our choice. When the patriarchy is in control, let me just tell you, again, this is prophetically, let me just tell you, when the patriarchy is in control, there is much judgment on women. The goal is judgment. Okay, why are you having an abortion? Can you give me 3 reasons why you should have this abortion? Judgment. And judgment leads to other standards. It leads to exercising rights over people, exercising power over people. So like Jesus told Martha, what is the real concern here? The concern is being able to control women, being able to control their choice. Galatians, standing fast in those liberties that of which Christ has made us free. We've already been free from this control for a little while, free from judgment for a little while. We're moving away from that controlled surrounding, from that controlled space. But what are we really facing? We're facing the fear of America becoming minority white. We're facing a fear of the patriarchy not being able to control us here in America anymore. And it's a clarion call to women, spiritually, physically, metaphysically, politically. It's a clarion call to women to rise up. Every cycle, every so often, every paradigm shift, there's a call through one way or the other. There's a call for women to raise up. There is a call for women for that theory, for that feisty, for that supernatural journalist, Ida B. Wells, who was going across America, and she was a journalist, and she was outstanding in journalism. She was reporting on the horrific and the violence against African Americans during the era of lynching. Well, it was a clarion call of purpose that rose up in Ida B. Wells Barnett and said, listen, I have got to become a lecturer on this. In the midst of it, I have got to become a militant, a civil rights militant. That is the season that we're in right now, that we must develop a tireless crusade against the power of the patriarchy. The sister said something so wonderful just now. All of the women, I greet you. Happy Mother's Day. And I salute each of you and your voices and your purpose. The sister said that there is a call for women to stand up. And it's absolutely true. We must use our purpose and our gifting, our exploit, whatever we've been called to do in the midst of the storm, in the midst of us rediscussing Roe versus Wade. Can you believe we would rediscuss that? Can you believe we would even consider going back to an era where hangers and back doors would be an option?
Yeah.
With all of the problematic things that we are facing in this country, do we even want to subject our youth to a backdoor and a hanger option?
My Lord.
So, like Ida B. Wells, we must take fearless efforts to expose this judgmental violence against women. Yes, it sounds like conversation now, but it will be later. It will be danger. It will be death. It will be traumatic if women lose rights to their wombs and have to take themselves through a journey of vicious violence. Through however it happens, there will be judgment. There will be horrific implications. And I am led to continue to lift up Ida B. Wells because even though the lynchings were happening here in America, she said, you know what? I've got to use my voice, my exploit, my gift to expose what's happening right now. And each of us are receiving that clarion call, whether we work with elderly, whether we work with the homeless, the hungry, young women, young men, old men, whoever we work for, it is our time to use fearless effort, to use our voices, and to go on crusades throughout America, especially in those areas of Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida, Texas, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, the Bible Belt. Listen, it's important for us to get this truth to all areas of this country where the people are more vulnerable, where the patriarchy tends to use their voices over people and not under people, with people, to support people. And so we want to make sure that the exploits of those who are standing right now to use their gifts, we want to make sure that our exploits are being used for the real thing, Like told Martha, we're worried about the wrong thing. This is what we're being told is the reason why Roe versus Wade is coming back up. It's not the real reason. It's not the real reason. It's the same reason why you will not let Haitians in and you will not let our Latin brothers and sisters in, but you opened up the back door for the Ukrainians to come in. And God bless the Ukrainians, but let us in too. Let our Haitian brothers and sisters in. Let our Latin brothers and sisters in. If there's a back door open, everybody should be able to come through and exploit that back door. But because of the browning of America, they're being very specific who is let in through that back door. Yeah. And so we got to be worried. Thank you, Jesus. We got to be worried, hallelujah, and spend our Mother's Days, our Father's Days, our Juneteenth, our Labor Days, our holidays, talking and listening at the feet of the Most High on moves to take and develop this type of conversation, this underground conversation that develops very liberated politics, very liberated activism, so that we can go forth and fight the proper fight. Fight the thing that is really bothering America. Fight the thing that is causing them to bring up Roe versus Wade. It's not a coincidence. It's
Yeah,
not a coincidence
that's right.
that subject. Yes, let it be not dismayed, for God is not mocked. Whatever a man soweth, that he shall reap. And
Right.
as we consider that, we must be courageous about reporting on the real issue.
Yeah. No, indeed, indeed, indeed. I mean, you put it all just in such profound perspective, in terms of the fact that, look, what's happening is very, very intentional. It is orchestrated, because, white supremacy, they continue to be on a tireless crusade. And let me just say, it is the ideology and the theology. Make no mistake now. It is the ideology and the theology. White supremacy is also a spiritual movement. It's also a spiritual force that has co-opted and manipulated Christianity,
Teach.
for its purposes, of discrimination, marginalization, and exploitation. So, and that's why, one of the messages that Dr. King didn't get to preach, but he was going to preach, was why America should go to hell. And I think we just be real about where we are and what is going on. And the other piece, just to mention, is it's all hands on deck around how do we continue to expose these schemes and systems, explore the impact that they have in terms of the drivers of disparity that they facilitate, and then to see how we can continue to excavate them and then expel them. That's going to be critical, and that's for the long haul. That we are called, onto the battlefield, for this. So I want to bring us, to a close here with all that's going on, Janet, as you deal with multi generations, and I know that all of us are actually dealing with multi generations, right? Because Pastor T, you have young adults, two beautiful young adults, that you are rolling with, that I have the opportunity to meet and work with, and Pamela, you have a teenager still, but some young adults, right? So this is a multi-generational movement that needs to really be built, and the baton at some point has to be handed over correctly, because if the baton is dropped, like in any race, it will not just be lost time, but also lost lives. It will be lost communities. It will be lost countries, because of this machinery of marginalization, discrimination, exploitation that continues to go on. So, Janet, finally, in your task of mothering, any other thoughts that you have around, where do we go from here in terms of continuing to facilitate resiliency, in the work with our young people? And I'm going to ask Pamela to share some thoughts around that as well.
I would say is that we have to continue to be really present. When I say present, I mean really present in the moment, present in understanding what our young people are going through, present in understanding how we all impact or influence the generation coming behind us, present in being open, right? Because oftentimes when there's a transference of power, or a transference of base building, or a transference, that includes also letting go, right? But it also includes, how do we build that bench so that the mantle can be taken up to go forward.
I like what you say, building the bench, right? And the bench has got to be deep. That pipeline is critical, that we have to build, as we, engage in this multi-generational movement building around that. Pamela, I know the two of us are involved in, doing whatever we can and need to do to activate, that Black immigrant, constituency, because truth be told, many of our brothers and sisters do come from spaces and places, where they fought so many battles, right? And so just getting to the so-called land of milk and honey, even though the milk has turned sour and the honey has expired, you know, folk are just like, we're just glad to be here, not understanding that you can live where you live, drive where you drive, buy food where you buy food, your kids can go to school where they can go to school, because we're standing on the bold and broad shoulders of folk who look like us that have gone before us, right? In terms of just your thoughts about, where do we go from here and how do we continue, to mother this generational, and for us, Pamela, multinational, right, or multicultural, movement building.
Well, Pastor Sauls, first of all, I want to honor your mom and really express gratitude that she brought forth an amazing son.
Thank you.
And now speaking about our children and the generations and transference, like I said before, I think our children will be fine in terms of picking up the mantle. However, I worry that we don't dialogue enough with our children and we underestimate what they're capable of. As parents, we are guardrails to our children.
Hey.
So, however, we have a lot to learn from them, but we must still provide the guardrails, because even though like I said, my children tell me things, I learn a lot from them, I still see sometimes a feeling of there's nothing we can do. And I worry about that. I worry about the fact that, like, I know one of our mothers here mentioned the fact that if we don't vote, or if we vote for a candidate who's against one thing, what else is that candidate against? And so sometimes our children are too woke, and don't want to get involved and don't want to get engaged in the politics, in the policies that really will make a difference. So they're disheartened. So they speak about the issues, but they don't want to participate in what it's going to take for us to move forward, to get this movement. I mean, a movement with no support, with no action, to me, is just us being on the streets, So I worry that that if we don't get our children involved and engaged, the next generation will just be that, movements and no action, So I think that we ought to bridge first as Black people, immigrants, and our brothers and sisters who were born here, who came via another route that we are not proud of, and those of us that came voluntarily, and those that are coming as refugees, everybody, the Black diaspora, we need to bridge. We need to work together. We need to have an alliance. I would love to see beyond the Black caucus, I would love to see a caucus that's inclusive of African, Caribbean, of all immigrants, and that there is an effort that is made to court us. I'm already there. I know what it's about, but the majority don't. And I think when Africa stands, we will stand as well. And so I think it's important that everybody of African descent take this seriously, and that we realize that regardless of how we came on board, look at us here, we're having conversation. I have a different cultural experience, but we're here together. We're in this together. Mm-hmm. We should look at each other as, like brothers who finally reunite and say, we are here together. We're in this together. Let's do this together. And our children are our bridge. And that we foster the same passion, into our children that we had, that the movements had, that our children are not just excited about the Nikes and the Vans and the material things, that they realize that vote, that when I don't want to have to tell my child, come November, you have to vote. I want my child to tell me, Mom, you have to vote. I want my child to be the one pushing me and not me say, did you feel that ballot? Do you know this is going on? I don't want to do that. Even though our children talk with, they're still immature. So I would love for us, Black people of African descent, to take the movement beyond just us as parents and to bring our children along. They know more than you think, but they don't know what to do with it.
Mm.
So that's all I can
say. You remind me of something that my mom taught me as I was coming of age, and we had to wrestle, of course, in South Africa between what we call prophetic church and state church, and the message that came forth from neutral, Methodists. That's what I call them, neutral Methodists. Was, politics, is like oil and water; they don't mix. And I said that to my mom one day after coming from an event, and she set me down and she said, well, they might say that, but let me be clear with you: the fact that you are black in South Africa means that everything about you is political.
Correct.
Right. And I've used that, with folk who here say, why are you so political? Why, since our arrival here, you see, is political. It is economic, right? And so folk who try to just make civic engagement a seasonal experience or a part-time experience. We just need to say to you, if you are black and in America, your very presence here is political. Whether you like it or not, folk are talking about you, trying to connive you, trying to get you on the menu and off the agenda on an ongoing basis. People are meeting 24 hours a day in suites that you might not even know of, right? And now they're going to be building suites in space, right? And they're going to be using platforms like Twitter, you see, that was built off the backs of the exploitation of black people in South Africa. Yes, that's where Elon Musk got his money from, because his parents owned mines in South Africa. So when we talk about, folk being concerned about what he's going to do, well, just follow the money, right? He didn't start from scratch, right? The money that he has, that he bought Twitter with, that he does Tesla with, that he takes folks to the moon with, it's all wrapped around racial capitalism and white supremacy. Truth be told, yes, I did say that. I wanna bring in Mother Fran here so that she can sage us. Now that we've gotten so a little radical over here, she's gonna try and put it all into perspective for us as we prepare ourselves to close. Mother Fran, any thoughts that you have in terms of where do we go from here? You have grandchildren, those that you've mothered in the movement, they have children and grandchildren, right? Any thoughts around how can we be present, right? How can we build a deep bench, as Janet mentioned? How can we, in the midst of skepticism as well as in the midst of cynicism and nihilism, how do we continue to build this multi-generational movement?
Well, my darling, this is amazing because I have written down and taken so many notes. I just appreciate this lesson this morning and you bringing all of this collective wisdom. And I think what I have learned, in 79 years, the word I would leave you with is be the change you seek. We are the role models. I like Pamela said so brilliantly, these children know so much more. My grandchildren know so much more about so much more than I knew at their age. My relevance to them is that they look to me as a model of how to live their lives. And that, I think, is the consciousness that I have to live with every day and bring, on a dreary day, on a whatever day. I realize that there are these young people who are walking in my footsteps and looking at me and seeing me as their future selves. And my responsibility to them is to be their best future by showing them what health, mental health, political and social health, financial well-being, what all that means. what all that means, um, to take with you. I had no idea what I would be at 79 when I was 17. I had no idea. And my grandparents weren't alive. My parents were busy, trying to contain my life. Sometimes I thought they were like trying to be wardens instead of parents. I just like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I got to go here, I got to go there, and they just like, cool your jets, okay, and slow down and grow. I I encourage my grandchildren to think of them as citizens of this world and as allies of everybody struggling in this world to make it a better place. And I have to live that life with them and for them.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And you are doing it, and we are grateful for that, and we love you for it.
I love
Pastor
you.
T, Pastor T, briefly, any final words, and then I'll share some words that came in over WhatsApp. Pastor T, any final words from you?
Yes, just a few. Um, so, first of all, thankful for your mother and thankful for who you are. I love your mom. And sharing love for your mother allows me to experience the fruit that she bore in you. I love Martin's mother. I love Malcolm's mother, Ida B. Wells' mother. I love Fannie Lou Hamer's mother. I love Harriet's mother because in their womb was this fruit that we get to experience. And I think that as we talk about mothers in movement, there's a very there's a couple of things that we can watch out for in our families, and that is well, mothers are able to do so many exploits, so many things, making something out of nothing, allowing their children to go 1,000 times deeper and harder and higher than they went, to level up and to be exalted off of in their base and off of their teachings and their virtue and the excellency of their position puts us in position. And so I'm just thankful for each of your mothers and for your words, because I know your words are the fruit of your mother's hard work in you, as well as myself. I think as mothers, we can start early exposing violence, exposing injustice in the home and in schools. We can be exposers of unrighteousness, of judgment, of it's nothing like a child having an advocate at a young age. It's nothing like a child saying so and so is picking on me, and you as a mother coming to the school and exposing that to the principal or to the teacher and saying, you know what, I don't appreciate that. The self-esteem that is built from being involved in a child's life. Just what I've experienced as a mother, that a large part of mothering is being an advocate. And what really teaches us to be activists is being activists in the home, advocating for our husband's health, advocating, hey, eat this, don't eat that. Let me make you a juice instead of drinking that sweet stuff. We learn to expose and to advocate, and exposing violence is very important because we get to expose the bullies at an early age, and then we get to expose issues that are civil rights issues and social justice issues at a young age. My children definitely know about civil rights because we made it an issue in the home if they weren't being treated properly, or if something was happening, a friend of theirs was hungry, we would say, okay, you take something for your friend that is hungry. You expose that. You don't ignore it. It's not conversation. It's an opportunity for activism.
Yes.
And if we treat our homes like that, we will become good at it, and we will become good in the community at fighting for rights and for justice. We will become good nationwide. And so that's the ask, is for us to share that. If we expose the treatment of LGBTQ youth, and say, you know what, we're not going to do that. We're not going to laugh at them. We're not going to talk about them. And then you see the suicide tendencies coming down. You see the hate coming down. If we all participate, and we have to know that you don't have to have a child that is dyslexic or ADD or LGBTQ or of another nationality to fight for those youth that are. You can be a fighter for all people, for all humanity, for all virtues, for all excellency, and we can all stand together in that position of wellness before the universe.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, Thank you so much. I wanted to just acknowledge that we were trying to get Carol Magruder with us. She did send some words to me via WhatsApp. Her Wi-Fi is acting up a little crazy, but before I read what Carol is saying, we would want to just acknowledge all those who've joined us on Facebook from New York, Los Angeles, as well as Pretoria, South Africa, and then also on YouTube. I want to appreciate those who've joined us there from here in Los Angeles, as well as from Johannesburg, South Africa. So we have folk in the house that joined us, and we appreciate your comments of affirmation. I want to appreciate Yogi Fish, Yogi talking about respect to Pamela Anchang, talking about Black Americans need to hear and understand what Black immigrants are going through and how we can bridge the consciousness and deal with the breach that took place in terms of what white folk told African Americans about African immigrants and vice versa, right? So how can we turn that breach into a bridge as we are called to do what we need to do? So Carol Magruder is co-chair of the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council. And unfortunately, she couldn't join us. She sent me some words as we get ready to host No Mental Sunday. This is going to be an extremely busy week for us. She writes, she says, Happy Mother's Day. Thank God for giving me so many mothers. God knew I needed extra love. Thank God for Ruth, Jewel, Barbara, Delphine Correa, Mama Hogan, Mama Precious, grandmother, Jeanette's granny, and Doris, and Liz, and Carol Gray Magruder. My message, and in the spirit of these wonderful mothers, I commit to loving and mothering. And the movement that she's mothering is the movement to save Black lives from the predatory and destructive practices of big tobacco. We're looking forward to No Mental Sunday coming up, but it's not just this Sunday, but throughout the year as we invite the faith community to join us in this fight and everything that it involves around that. Please check out the website for more information, and that website is listed there for you, as well as the 800 number, or you can just Google No Mental Sunday. Our theme is bold awareness, fight to the finish. The FDA, of course, is having hearings right now and getting input around the stance that they took around around the impact of menthol. And so we're looking forward to that final decision coming up. Here in California, we're going to be in the fight of our lives because of a proposition that's on the ballot, 793. And so we'll talk some more about that. Seeing that Carol couldn't be here, we do have a spoken word artist that's here to say a little something about how do we continue to save Black lives from the clutches of big tobacco. LaRon, let's play that.
How long will you target me? I mean, most of your friends have been banned, yet you still seek minorities. I don't get it. Menthol, how is it that you only allow the flavors not associated with Black lives to be taken? I mean, am I paranoid, or is this a divisive plan to take out the Black community? Anyways, I applaud your ability to market my people at a time when my people weren't considered marketable. But at what cost? Your strategy seems to be counterproductive. Although you gave money to community groups and political causes, your infiltration methods have also produced more black coffins. How many of the black youth are forced to see what's left of their parents' carcass? Yes, it is a choice to smoke you. But at what point does a choice become predetermination? You have pumped my community with advertisement and flavors. Advertisement and flavors. Advertisement and flavors. Your aggressive campaigning has led to generation on generation of learned behavior. Your targeting systems have locked solely onto my father, my mother, my sister, my brother, me. Can't you see the ever in your ways, but is it ever when it's done intentionally? In 1953, 5% of blacks who smoked consumed you, triple that. 1968, 14% consumed you, triple that. 1976, 42% consumed you. Now in the 2000s, 80% of blacks who smoke abuse you. Our death rates rise with your profits. And there is too much money to be made to stop it. Why should I hope to see change? You have created for us a new form of change, bondage, limited choices, a predetermined health condition, a cage. Your actions are Judas. You befriended me to infiltrate my core disguised as feel good and relief. I finally stepped out of cause and seen the effects of how abusive you really are. I'm glad that I let you know about yourself. Because if we were really cool, you would let me go. But we're not. So, how long will you target me?
That target is real, folks. It's going on right now, and we are in a fight for our lives around big tobacco. The way I put it is a fight that looks like one between David and Goliath. Scripture clearly, informs us as to who won that fight, and so I'm on David's side as we move this piece forward. We got something just in hot off the press from a mother herself who wanted just to share a few words around Mother's Day. We hope that this will be played in churches and synagogues all over the place. It is a mother who's running to be the first woman mayor of Los Angeles, and that is none other than Congresswoman Karen Bass. She has a special message that we're going to close out with, and then we want to let folk know that, hey, we are in an election season. Ballots are dropping tomorrow for city council and all kinds of elections, mayoral, assembly, senate. It's going down. The ballots are dropped tomorrow. Please make sure that you register to vote if you haven't done so already. Don't wait. As soon as you get your ballot, which is dropping tomorrow, in the mail, it is important, very important, that you return that ballot, via mail or a drop-off site. We have voting centers all over the place. Mail ballot, a drop-off location, or the closest, vote center. The time to turn in the ballot is now and not election day. So if you get it tomorrow, I challenge you to join me in making sure it gets back into the mail or gets dropped off at a ballot box by hump day. That's Wednesday. Join me. I challenge you. Let's now listen from this mother of a movement she started 30 years ago through Community Coalition. And now she has made her way through the State House, now made her way to Congress, and she has made a commitment to come home. And I'm glad to say that I am with her. Let us now receive Karen Bass.
Good morning, church. Giving honor to God, and I bring greetings from my home church and my pastor, Reverend Norman Johnson from First New Christian Fellowship. As I embark on this historic journey to become the first Black woman mayor elected in Los Angeles, I'm reminded of one of my favorite passages from the book of James, chapter 2, verses 14 through 26. Faith without works is dead. Church, we have friends, relatives, and families who look like us without clothing, food, mental health assistance, and a decent, safe place to sleep at night. The Bible says we cannot simply say, go in peace with the hope that they will be safe, well-fed, and warm, and do nothing about their needs. What good is that? We can do better, and we must do better. Church, do you know that black folk are only 9% of the city of Los Angeles, but 40% of the people sleeping on the streets are African American? We need to put in the work to solve homelessness, to keep our communities safe. We need affordable housing. We have to address income inequality, and we need to create a better quality of life for all Angelinos. So I'm running for mayor because I'm trying to bring people and communities together to solve the problems of homelessness, lack of affordable housing, and unsafe neighborhoods. I know it can't be done overnight, but I'll attack these problems with the energy and passion I used to create the Community Coalition to fight the crack cocaine crisis in the 1990s. As the former and only black woman ever elected Speaker of the California Assembly, I worked hard with friends and people who I differed with to prevent an economic collapse in California during the recession. I'm no stranger to hard work, sacrifice, and walking by faith, but I can't do this walk alone. I have local, state, national, and international experience as a community organizer, former Speaker of the House, and a member of Congress for over 12 years. We've never had a mayor of Los Angeles who looks like me, and I'm asking you to join me on this voyage. We can change history, but it's never easy. Ketanji Brown Jackson was recently confirmed to be the first black woman to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court, and all of us are so proud. But you know it wasn't easy. She got roughed up. And I expect similar treatment, but with a higher authority on my side, I won't be discouraged, but I will need your prayers. So the election day is actually June 7th, but I say it begins May 9th, because on May 9th is when you will begin to receive ballots. Everyone in California gets a ballot now. Please fill that ballot out immediately and put it in the mail. So I'm asking for your prayers, and most importantly, that you vote for every single position. When you get that ballot on May 9th, please remember to vote and tell your friends and families to do the same. So thank you for this opportunity to worship with you. Please pray for me, and let's make history together. Thank you. God bless.
There you have it. Now, in case you still haven't made up your mind, Majority Whip Jim Clyburn put it this way. He said the best predictor of the future is past performance. If you put the past performance, let's just say 30 years of Karen Bass next to Caruso, I'm sure you will kind of figure out why I am with her. So please make sure you get that ballot. Make sure you do what you got to do. Democracy is a contact sport. It's up to us. Let's do it. Pastor Temakila Crystal Coleman Smart, thank you for being here. Pamela Asobo Anchang, thank you for being here. Janet Kelly, thank you for being here. Mother Fran, Jamat Rollins, we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. This has been Faith Without Borders, y'all. I'm your host, Pastor Kelvin Sauls. Let's keep on keeping on until we reach beloved community. One love.